thou must reckon to pay the last mite. Expect no abatements. When we would be going down the Amazon in an open boat, and you would see this cloud burst on the horizon, and you would pray because you knew, I've got just a few minutes to get to shore, and if I do not get to shore, we're sunk. And you would pray that that cloud would abate, that somehow it would divide in two, that one would go one direction, the other, and you would be safe, and the waves would be coming over the bow of the boat. You're praying for an abatement, but he says this, expect no abatement, son. If I spare them, I will not spare you. Content, Father. Let it be so. Charge it all upon me. I am able to discharge it. And though it prove a kind of undoing to me, and though it impoverish all my riches, empty all my treasures, yet I am content to undertake it. Content to undertake it. I'll finish by saying this. One of the greatest, and it was mentioned 2 days ago, one of the greatest narratives of the Old Testament is Abraham, commanded to carry his son Isaac to Mount Moriah and to sacrifice him there. And let me repeat what was said. Listen to the language. Take now your son, your only son, whom you loved, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you. And the burden was laid on the old man. And you can see him as in obedience and yet great sorrow, he makes his way toward the mountain. He prepares the altar, prepares the wood, lays his son, stretches him out, uncovers the flint knife that may have been the very knife he used to circumcise the boy. He rears up, draws back his hand, and his will gives in to the will of God. And at that moment, his hand is stayed. And then Abraham is told, Jehovah Jireh provided a ram. I don't want to be bold, and I want no laughter from this statement, but in my presence, don't ever use the terminology Jehovah Jireh with regard to a house or a Mercedes or prosperity. Because, my dear friend, you will have a fight on your hands. He will provide a ram. And all of us hear that story, and we're just, what a beautiful ending to that story. What a beautiful ending. No, it's not the ending. It's the intermission. Century after century after century rolls by. A curtain is closed. And then 2,000 years ago, it opens again. And there hangs God's Son, His only Son, whom He loves. And He takes the knife out of Abraham's hand and He thrusts it in the breast of His own Son. One poet said, offer up the sacrifice. All creation sends forth the call. Offer up the sacrifice. One life to pay for them all. Offer up the sacrifice. The innocent one, the righteous one must be slain. Offer up the sacrifice and bring man back to God again. We are ambassadors of this pearl. We are ambassadors of this treasure. How can it be, brethren? Flee from here. Flee from here. And go to your studies. And seek Him out. And seek Him out. And seek Him out. That you may reveal more and more and more of Him to your people. And to the degree that they grasp this, if their hearts are truly regenerate, they will grow in holiness. They will grow in devotion. And then go out into the streets. Don't wrangle about politics. Don't fight with men about certain ethical standards. Proclaim who God is and what God has done. Go tell it on a mountain. But before you go to the mountain, make sure that when you open up your mouth, something comes out. And know this, all the knowledge in the world apart from prayer, all the knowledge in the world without the Spirit of the living God will avail you nothing. Men, when I was first called into the ministry, my pastor was an amazing man. He looked at me and he said this, "Boy, can you be alone?" And I thought that what he meant was this: if I preached the truth, no one would like me. That's not what he meant. He meant while all the other boys are going on Christian retreats and hanging out in bachelor packs, running with the crowd, could you be alone with God? Can you make Him your dwelling place? Can you be a rare bird? Can you stay with Him for a while? Men. The world needs Christ and a revelation of Christ. And you have been given the privilege of preaching Christ. Now do your work. And for some of you it may be necessary, as it has been for me throughout many times, to shut my mouth and open my ears and study and read and cry. Every time we walk out in a pulpit, we are not movers and shakers. We are not marketers. We are Ezekiel. And God says to us in the middle of that valley of dry bones, because it's all dry bones, can these bones live? We will not deny Him in unbelief and say no. And we will not presume upon Him and say yes, but we will respond, "You know, O Lord, you know." Then prophesy. Prophesy. Everything, about everything in the kingdom is supernatural. Not this flimsy, silly supernatural of contemporary evangelicalism. Real supernatural. Men are only converted by a miraculous work of the Spirit. And the Spirit has most promised to work when we prophesy. Not some silly idea that we caught on the wind, but the written Word of God.